Okay, so we are recording, and this is Sam from Eating Clean, Cooking Dirty, and the Thriving Family, and we are interviewing Alegra Loewenstein today. I am so excited. Be Live TV did not work for us, so we are here over on Zoom. I've shared the link, so if you guys are seeing it, you have the opportunity to jump in on the Zoom call. But if not, we're going to post this in Facebook a little bit later today as well. So Alegra is a very ambitious woman who wants to help other ambitious women end emotional eating, stop binging on sugar, cut the sugar addiction, not count every calorie in life, and still enjoy the food that they're eating and finding a good relationship. So thank you, Alegra. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's 11 o'clock.
It is 11 o'clock. I don't know where that came from.
I'm sorry. That's my computer. I always forget to turn it off. It's so that I don't sit for too long, although half the time I ignore it.
Oh, I like that.
That's
a good little tip. Is that like an app or something?
Just a setting on your Mac clock, if you have a Mac.
I do.
The voice. They're all computer voices.
Nice. I have a standing workstation, but sometimes I still end up sitting down and an hour passes and I'm like, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, you got to move a little.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you started Healthy Family Harmony.
Yeah, well, this is the most random thing. I didn't even know where I ever heard about a health coach. First time I ever heard about it, I said, that's what I want to do. I would be so good at that. And that was years and years and years ago. I don't even remember. And then I worked in science education, so it's similar. I love science. I've always loved healthy eating. But how I got to where I am was a journey on kind of the business and self-discovery side, where I started out Healthy Family Harmony, obviously. Sounds a little different than sugar addiction because I started out really focusing on families, but over time I found that wasn't what people were needing or coming to me for. Mm-hmm. It was more the emotional eating and those stuck patterns. And in helping those people, I was going back to my own bookshelf. I feel so blessed that 15, 20 years ago, I was seriously addicted to sugar. I ate sugar all the time. I ate it all throughout the day. I denied that I had a problem. I said, I'm healthy. I eat vegetables. I eat all this stuff. I eat everything you're supposed to. Well, I was also eating sugar all the time. And what happened for me was I had a recurring throat infections that the regular Western doctors just antibiotics. Well, I only did that once. And then it was a journey for me. I found traditional Chinese medicine, and she's the one who was like, it's too much sugar. That's all kind of a long story, but the point is that then I'm going back to my bookshelf, reading all this stuff about how I went down my own path in the sugar. Yeah. And then I realized, well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I should be doing. And so then I kind of turned to really just push that out forward and help people with that specifically.
Yeah. And so helping people with sugar addiction is your main focus.
That is definitely my main focus, my passion. And it's that interplay. It doesn't have to be sugar, but it's that interplay of you have something happening in your food habits that feels bad. So whether you're gaining weight or you have some kind of acute problem or you're developing a chronic problem, whatever it is. So sugar is really, really, really common.
Yeah.
I put that forward, but sometimes it's just junk food or, whatever, you're just overeating. It can play out in different ways, but I struggle with the sugar, and a lot of people struggle with the sugar. So
yeah,
that's that interplay of the sugar and the emotional reason, why we're using that.
And there's a memory to it, right? There's a whole, you eat the sugar and then you have this memory of how you felt, right? That goes beyond after you've crashed from the sugar, right? So
the whole thing
occurring.
Is absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot about this stuff. It's complicated, It's the memory of it. It's there is biological stuff, and I don't discount that's that you have to change your eating patterns. You can't just this is my emotional reason and keep eating the sugar. You have to eventually change the food, but for me, I just found that there are people like myself who, if you don't identify the initial reason,
yeah,
none of that. I pledge so many times. I go through old journal right here, sitting right here, and it's like literally there's probably 30 times in this journal where I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna quit sugar, and then like a month later, it's like, I've been eating so bad, I'm gonna quit sugar tomorrow, over and over. So
right.
that's the pattern. That's the stuckness where it's like you don't know why. You have to figure out why you got there, how to change.
Absolutely. And you have this, I find that this is super common. You have this yo-yo effect of like, I'm going to change everything about me tomorrow. And then whatever that time period is for you, you go up, and then you have a moral failing, or you feel like you have this moral failing, and then you beat yourself up with it. But like the reality is there's so many like biological reasons, and it's not a moral failing that you just can't stop eating sugar. You can't make a drastic change overnight. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be fun because you're going to know all the geeky stuff I'm talking about. But yeah. So there's the hormones, which are triggered by the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Those hormones were also probably, as you know, triggered by something else before you ate the sugar, right? You turn to the sugar. You just imagine like the first time you ever binged on sugar. There was something going on. It's like you felt crappy, you were stressed, or you broke up with your boyfriend, or whatever it was like there was an initial thing. So whether that's an echo from the past that you haven't, then you got into the biological thing, and then you're getting triggered by the hormones, or whether that feeling is still there and it keeps triggering. So the emotions are also like, I kind of think of it as like there's a pathway over here that puts you where the hormones, you can't resist your hormones, right? It's not a moral failing. It's your hormones are controlling you, because your hormones do control you.
Right.
So you have this emotional path that sets you down, and then you get the biological, right? And then you kind of like keep going, and you have to stop both. They both will keep you going down that path. And so sometimes for my clients that work with me, they have tried the biological and they didn't get the emotional dealt with. And so then you kind of do them both.
Yeah, totally. So you're talking about the hormonal impact of sugar a little bit. And so when you're working with your clients, do you look at their hormone number, their hormone levels? Do you I'm not sure if you do that yourself, or if you collaborate with other health professionals to do that. How do you do that?
So I don't typically focus on numbers of any sort.
Okay.
They can be tools. They're not really ones that I tend to work with. Mm-hmm. So certainly I have clients who are getting numbers from doctors, but that's usually their choice. Like if they're working with me and working with a doctor, I will look at the information that they have. Sure.
Yeah.
Understand them and help them understand it and help them know what it means. Because sometimes, doctors are really, they can be, there's amazing doctors, but many of them can be kind of black and white.
Yeah.
So I help them understand more like the nuance, or maybe that there's alternative pathways they have to know where they want to go. And that's what I do.
Yeah. Totally.
Then I can help them get there. So, if they are happy with what their doctor is doing, that's just the path that they're going to stay. I supplement to support that so they feel their best on it. And if they want to do something different than what their doctor is saying. Yeah. I'm not medically trained.
Right.
I don't ever contradict a doctor's advice, but I can help empower them to go back to their doctor and have another conversation of what else that might look like for them. Mm-hmm. But a lot of my clients, they're not working on the issues that they're working with me with the doctor. Yeah. So a lot of times it's weight loss, and I'm like, getting rid of the numbers. I'm like, throw out your scale or hide it away or give it. Are powerful red flags, but they are distractions sometimes to the process. So
yeah, absolutely.
As hormones go, like I do work to reset hormones with my clients, but it's not dramatic. It's really slow and subtle, and it's a process for sure.
Yeah, and I that whole having a process that is slow and steady definitely makes it, I find, more sustainable. You know, if you're working towards that. It's interesting. I've had a few conversations. Because of what I do, I interact with a lot of health professionals, and I randomly have started having more and more women MDs, mom MDs, coming into my membership, and then also reaching out to me. And then also some NDs, some naturopathic doctors that are also moms. And so like I've started building up this like web of connections between these MDs and these NDs. And it's interesting because I when I get an opportunity to talk to them, I always want to pick their brain, because there is so much going on in the hormonal and like thyroid side. And when you look at what that traditional line is with medical doctors, like where hormones should be, where thyroid should be, and then you start speaking with NDs on where their guidelines lie, it's very different. But it's interesting because I've had some more personal conversations with some MDs, women, Western medical doctors recently, even like this week. I had one, and a few weeks ago I had another. And both of them were of the casual opinion, not professional medical advice, I'm going to say that right now, but casual opinion that when it comes to dealing with hormones and thyroid, NDs that are trained to look at those numbers and to help analyze those numbers and to help with natural solutions to balance those out are oftentimes more effective than Western medicine. So it was really interesting to have, like, I had this opportunity to have this candid conversation with an ER doctor who was telling me how she took her daughter to a naturopath to work out some stuff that her daughter was dealing with. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, the ER doctor is taking her daughter to an ND. I mean, that really to me speaks huge words and what food can do in helping women, and that it's not about rushing out and going and getting yourself on a whole bunch of medication or whatever it is to balance out your hormones. And when your medical doctor tells you that it's all in your head, yeah. There's that whole other thing. And to work with somebody like you who is like, no, there's really some things, and there is the biological, but also the psychological piece going into it. I think that's really, really important to attack, because I don't think you can have one without the other and effectively make a change.
No, you can't. Well, and that's kind of, I think, where Western medicine starts to fail, right? I mean, ER, I love your story, because ER is kind of like the best of Western medicine, right? I mean, you want Western medicine if you have like crushed bones or like really stuff, like that is where Western medicine is just amazing. Like who can be saved and what you can restore in your life. But it's all the subtle, more complicated stuff.
Yeah.
Western medicine doesn't have a solution for, I feel like crap.
Right.
They just don't.
They do. It's called Prozac or whatever, like the current version is, right?
Right.
Prozac was the thing like 20 years ago when I'm like totally taken myself out of the Western medical, like prescriptions, antibiotics, anything, pharmaceutical as much as possible. And so I'm like not cool anymore, but I use the term Prozac.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a place for all those things. There really is a place for all of those things, but there's a whole subtle realm that's, I think there's a movement. They're trying to merge them together. There's just some movement
to some degree,
but it's slow. They're like big institutions typically. So
yeah,
that stuff happens slowly.
They are. You know, I was in the ER 2 weeks ago. We had to cancel our meeting, our interview, and I had this surgeon who goes to my CrossFit gym, who is very fit and on the younger side for a surgeon, right? And
I have to say, I like having sexy doctors.
yeah, he was a
really
good doctor. He was a very good looking doctor, but they couldn't diagnose my appendicitis. It took them 2 days. And so they're trying to look at like on my history. So my history has a whole lot of digestive issues in it. A lot of which was caused by sugar and, bad carbohydrates, which are sugar. And, so they're looking at my history, and I've had 4 colonoscopies and 3 endoscopies before I was 30. I have a lot of stuff going on. And he's like, well, what's going on now? And I said, well, 2007, found CrossFit, found paleo, stopped putting bad stuff in my body on a regular basis. And I don't take anything at all, except for some iron supplements, because that's just not fixing itself. So he looked at me like I had grown horns. This is a guy that is in my CrossFit gym, who is healthy, who lives a healthy lifestyle. And he literally looked at me when I told him that I literally just stopped eating crap. Like I had grown horns and was like on top of the ceiling.
That's bizarre.
It was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? Like, really?
Why would he be so shocked by that?
He would, it's Western medicine. He was a surgeon, he was an ER doctor, but I had a follow-up. I had a conversation the next week with Michelle. Oh gosh, I'm spacing on her name, but she's a pediatrician who specializes in childhood obesity. And I was telling her this story, and she's like, you know what? My husband's also a surgeon, and he eats a healthy lifestyle, but you start asking him about like telling his patients what to eat, and he knows nothing because they don't teach you that. Yeah. They're surgeons, they're plumbers, they're there to go in and say, well, I had an appendicitis. I would not be here today if I didn't have that surgeon. He was amazing. But if I want to figure out how to not eat crap and have a better life, I need to talk to somebody like you instead, because literally the knowledge that you have when it comes to, not feeling bad on a day in, day out basis is a lot more effective than that surgeon who has an MD at the end of his name. And I think that from a Western standpoint, that's a very hard thing for us to wrap our brains around. Because we're like, oh, the doctor knows, he's a doctor, he's an MD. He's not an ND, he's an MD.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get more and more into the idea of working with people like you who have this vast knowledge on how to make changes that are sustainable so that we're not just taking our prescriptions.
Yeah.
And
even doctors that get it, it's also the implementation, right? I mean, your doctor might say like, oh, eat more vegetables and lose 20 pounds. But that's not always trivial to actually do those things.
No, it's so not trivial, but they're just not equipped. And that's a reality. They are not equipped. They are equipped for other very effective, very important tasks.
Yeah.
But they're really not equipped to make consulting changes, like advice on how to make long-term changes to just feel like a good human being or a healthy human being. Maybe I should use healthy instead of good.
Yeah. Well, just to feel good in your body.
Yeah, totally. So, okay. So we have totally veered off all the questions that I had, which is awesome because I think this is very, very interesting. We kind of dug into how, what sugar addiction is, how it can affect your life a little bit. So tell me tell me a little bit about what choices or alternatives we can make for our family to reduce sugar without causing mutiny in the household.
Yeah. So the easiest thing to do, this is a great starting point, especially for families, is to look for hidden sugars. Hidden sugars, if you're not already paying attention, you are going to find so much sugar that it's actually going to be pretty easy to replace after the initial effort. So it's not something that takes a lot of sustained effort. The hidden sugar, you know, in maybe 1 or 2 trips to the grocery store, schedule out a little bit of extra time and compare the ingredient lists. I always say ingredient list first because that's more important than nutritional information, but you can also do a quick check of nutritional information because even healthy products can have a lot of hidden sugars because it can have like date puree and concentrated white grape juice and and raisin puree and all this stuff, and you quick scan, you're like, oh, it's all natural healthy ingredients, and then you look and it's like 24 grams of sugar. Well, yeah, they're natural sugars, but you might want to find a different option anyways.
Yeah. I think that's a really awesome point. Honey and maple syrup, they're still sugar.
Yeah.
And they're still part of the whole addiction. They might be better choices if you're going to use white sugar instead of honey, or you're trying to make the choice, but they also shouldn't necessarily be in your meals on a regular basis.
Yeah, and the more that you can buy stuff plain, so that's also, if you're looking at hidden sugars, stuff like spaghetti sauce has added sugar. Most of them have added sugar, but if you look, you can find some without, or maybe the sugar is the last ingredient and it has like a negligible amount, and if that's all you find at your grocery store, well then just do the one with the least, and that's where the nutrition information can be a good red flag. Like, oh, I see sugar on both of them. Just in case any listeners don't know, ingredients are listed by either weight or volume. So the first ingredients are what it has the most of. So if sugar's in the first 3 ingredients, it's mostly sugar. If it's down on the bottom, you can maybe lighten up a little bit if there's not a better choice. And then also just less than 10 ingredients, almost always the option with less ingredients is better than the option with more ingredients. Just almost always that's true.
That's a good tip.
And then I also say, and these are like tips and tricks. So if you're a mom and you're managing your families, these are really good. If you're a mom and you're struggling with your own sugar problem, tips and tricks are only going to get you so far because there's probably an emotional factor. So you do have to make sure that you're looking at what's the purpose. So tips and tricks, if you have an addiction situation, are only going to get you so far. But if you're looking at a family management perspective, they can be amazing, super powerful tools. And then the other thing is buy everything unflavored and unsweetened and put your own in. Like buy plain yogurt and put in your own fruit. And if you need the honey because you were buying sweetened yogurt and your taste is used to it, you can start adding your own honey, maple syrup, whatever like you prefer. And probably be adding less, and you can reduce it over time.
Yeah.
So you're in control of those ingredients at that point. And, you can put in a ton of fruit too, which is going to, most flavor, like strawberry yogurt is milk, sugar, strawberries.
Right. Strawberry flavoring.
Right. Depending on the brand, there might be like a whole lot of other just garbage that you wouldn't even want to eat.
Yeah.
If you buy it, it can be like milk product, the yogurt, then whole strawberries, no strawberry flavoring, and then a little drizzle of honey.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So you're putting yourself in control, and it doesn't really take any more time. It's like 2 things out of the fridge instead of 1.
Right.
Once you get into the habit. So that's the kind of thing for families that can be just those hidden sugars, like breads have tons of hidden sugars, sauces, of course, anything you get takeout is going to have a ton also of sugar in it. So minimizing takeout. And even if that means doing like frozen meals for a while as you transition, you can read the ingredients on a frozen meal, and you don't typically do that at fast food or takeout. So it's all about the more control that you can take back. And the more empowered you can be, then you're going to have a better sense of how much sugar you're actually eating.
Love it. That's awesome. Those are really great tips. I love I especially love the idea of picking stuff that has less ingredients instead of more.
That's like, if you can do that, if you can buy single ingredients,
yeah,
I mean, your diet just got 100 times better.
Yeah. Even like with tomato sauce, I end up buying canned pureed tomato sauce that has nothing else in it. And then I just add my own seasonings when I'm not in a mood to make it from scratch. And it's easy and it's so much better.
I mean, I do. I buy the jar. I buy straight up jarred. If it's noodle night, it's like, no, I'm going to boil noodles and pour some sauce. I don't love noodles that much, but it's like the easiest thing for my kids. So I do buy the jar, but I have a brand that I buy. And I think actually my favorite does have sugar, but it's like the last ingredient. It's from Trader Joe's. It's like 8 ingredients on the list. So
yeah. Awesome. Cool. Wonderful. Those are great tips. I really appreciate that. So I know we've taken a lot of time because we had some technical issues. So let's get to the last 2 questions. Tell me a book. Tell us all about a book you're reading now.
Right now, okay, well, I'm usually reading multiple books, but right now the one that comes to mind is called Women, Food, and Desire, I think.
Okay.
Women, Cravings, and Desire, something like that. And it's really about that when we suppress our cravings,
Mm-hmm.
that they come back stronger. And that a lot of times our food cravings are actually representative of other cravings in our life that we're not fulfilling. So it's like the idea that how we relate with our food is reflecting how we're living our life.
Sweet.
And it's really it's been great to read it. It's nonfiction, it's slow.
Yeah.
But there's been some good little nuggets in there just about like releasing control sometimes and moving into really like listening. A lot of what I talk about is like listening to our bodies and then really honoring what we hear or feel within that.
Yeah.
So there's like examples of people who were really strict vegan and then they actually gave that up because it was like too much control was sabotaging their relationship with their health.
Totally.
And just like, how like, the last thing I read was a woman who was like having all this bloating and the woman who wrote the book is like, oh, you need to like get your vibrator out or have sex and focus on like this healing energy and like the love of your body. And so it's kind of, there's some funny, like, it's not necessarily what you think of with health, but
totally,
it's all about that relationship.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will find a link to that and post it when we post this video. That's wonderful. So what is one action that you take daily that makes a big impact in your life?
Okay, if there's one thing that I could never give up, I drink a big glass of warm lemon water when I first wake up.
Is that would you say that that's almost a ritual for you?
It's definitely a ritual, and once in a while, if I wake up a little late or I get distracted and I don't do it, I feel off for the rest of the day. I feel like I can never make up for having missed that thing.
Totally.
That it's just, I get really thirsty. I'm usually really thirsty when I wake up, so I'm getting hydrated, and it feels so much better than putting food into my stomach first thing in the morning. And I try to do it an hour before I eat. I don't always make that if I wake up a little late, but it feels
awesome.
So
That's wonderful. Thank you. Well, okay. So tell us where we can find you, where we can connect with you.
Yeah. So I have a website. It's healthyfamilyharmony.com. So you can find me over there. I have some like the top 5 mistakes that are causing your weight gain or your sugar addiction. Actually, I don't remember how I phrased it. And then I also have a Facebook group where I'm running a 21-day emotional detox. It's running right now through the 28th.
Oh, cool.
It's free and it's no changes to your food. It really is about getting in touch with those emotions and that relationship
Nice.
between your emotions and your food.
Awesome.
So that's called Love Every Bite. My Facebook group is called Love Every Bite.
Love everybody. Okay, so we're gonna link to that. Everything.
Every bite.
Every bite. We will link to that in this video. We will get this video up later today. And we're also going to turn this into a blog post too. So, yeah, awesome. Wonderful. Anything else that you want to share before we jump off?
I would just say, like, the last thing that I would want to put out into the world to help women is the idea that if you're turning to sugar over and over and over, that it's a sign, like at the most basic level, that you need to get sweetness in your life from another place. And you can start doing that. That's how I started my journey. I made a list of sugar alternatives, and I don't mean aspartame or xylitol. I mean, like, make a cup of tea, get a massage, hug somebody, call a friend, that you can start to sustain yourself with those changes and find that sweetness in other ways.
I love that. Is so cool. That's really powerful. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry Be Live TV didn't work, but we are going to get this out into the world anyway. And I really appreciate you hanging in with me with all the technical issues. All right. Well, I'm going to stop recording in a minute. Allegra, hang on for just a second. And thank you all for watching this. And I'm sorry we weren't able to do it live, but it's the way it is. All right. Take care.